to New Ulm Forum, a public service of the New Ulm Community Access Television Program. I'm Teresa Caveney with the League of Women Voters of New Ulm. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization dedicated to civic engagement in our democracy. We also do public education on a variety of issues, including clean energy. And towards that, today our guest is Derek Nelson. And Derek is the Energy Service Representative with the New Ulm Public Utilities. So welcome. Thanks for working with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You betcha. Tell us what your job entails.
I have multiple tasks with the position I have, but I think they all are centered around customer relations, customer service. So regardless of what that may be that particular day or yearly, it's all centralized around the customer. So that could be anything from we put out our bi-monthly newsletter.
Yep.
I write articles for that, find out additional information for that, along with our conservation calendar. So with both of those, I deal much more with the newsletter than I do so much with the calendar, but I work with Matsit Inc., who helps compile and kind of make it look good and nice. So I work with them, or with Eileen, pretty closely with those to billing inquiries, high usage or how to reduce usage on somebody's, their bill at their home or business, to DER applications, which is
DER?
Yep, distributed energy resources. So that's anything that possibly could be interconnected to the utility. So for the most part, that could be numerous things, but right now it's always solar. Mm-hmm. So we have our Nova Power Portal on our website where customers can come check out, all the literature on there, and that's what the vendors would use to submit an application for somebody that wants to interconnect to the utility with solar. So that's that portion, and then I could go on to, I'm the ex officio, or the person from the office for the Energy Awareness Commission.
I serve on that.
Which you serve on with me, yes. So I do the minutes and the agenda for that, and work with the commission to come up with what should be on the agenda. And just recently, within the last few years, the Energy Awareness Commission also are kind of the governing body of the Green Step Cities, which New Ulm is also a member of. And then finally, I guess the biggest part of my job is not solely what I work on, but it takes up probably the most portion of my job, which is the utilities SIP, which is the conservation improvement programs, which are the rebates that the utility offers to customers. Yep.
Which we'll dive right in and talk about that. Can you tell us about the business and commercial residential conservation improvement program? And then we'll talk about residential.
Sure. So the utility, we have a handful of rebates for, like you said, we'll start with the commercial, that are on our website. They would happen to be things like high efficiency lighting, replacements for failed or new motors or variable speed drives for those motors, rebates for district energy, which is steam. But that's kind of what's catered on the website. They're the most popular, the most used. So there's forms and information on our website regarding them. But the biggest thing that we're trying to really focus on and push are custom rebates, which could be pretty much what I tell people, customers that call, if there's a possibility that there's energy savings with the action you're doing or what you're looking to purchase, there's probably money available. So it's just interacting with the customer and finding out what that savings could be, what they're doing, and finding a rebate that we can offer them.
Are there minimum requirements for the type of equipment to be purchased or bulbs to be purchased and so forth? How restrictive are they?
Right. There's not much limiting a customer for what they're doing with the commercial. It could be something as you're a new startup commercial business. You're not a large industrial customer. You're someone that started a new mom and pop store in downtown district. You're trying to be more energy efficient, but you don't have the startup funds for those types of things right away. And you want to do an office in the back, lighting, next year do something else. If it's literally replacing 3 fixtures for $80, submit a rebate, because that's, at least 30% of that cost probably be rebated back to you, which helps cut that payback, right?
Yes, it does.
Back for that lighting.
And we're experiencing that where I live. I'm a member of the Real Life Community Co-op,
Yep.
and we just replaced a water heater. We've replaced light bulbs and lighting fixtures. And I know I've seen our staff person submit the
Yeah, yep.
requests. Tell us about the Residential Conservation Improvement Program.
There's much more, there's just as much opportunity, but there's more actual standardized forms for on the residential side. They're just easier to compile and find the savings for things that have been set in place for numerous years, such as a furnace rebate, a central AC rebate, check and cleans for both of those units, and boiler also, to the residential lighting. You mentioned water heaters. Going back to the commercial, our furnace rebate or even a central AC, it's catered to the residential person because they're a residential type unit, but there's businesses that can also rebate and get a rebate for, a furnace as well, because there's, well, what else do we have? I mentioned AC furnace. If we have residential steam customers, they're also eligible for, a steam rebate. So there's quite a few, and they're all on our website. And I'm getting there's also a quick fax form, so if anybody has questions on possible monetary amounts for those rebates, those are online, and we're in the process of making a kind of a quick fax companion to that has the criteria.
Oh,
for,
good.
because there is criteria with some things, such as one I didn't mention was the appliance rebate. One requirement is those need to be Energy Star certified, and the same with the lighting. The lighting is supposed to be Energy Star certified, and that's just that has to do with the way the programs work. These programs offered by utilities are overseen by the Minnesota Department of Commerce. And what they have is they have a very large booklet that's 600-700 pages long, called a Technical Reference Manual. And within that has all the algorithms on finding savings based on these appliances or actions that someone may do. And what they use for the savings on multiple different things, for instance, the appliances and the lighting, is that they're Energy Star rated. So that's one reason why pretty much all utilities offer only rebates for appliances and lighting that are Energy Star certified. Yeah. Yep.
So I'm aware also that the city has available an energy audit program for residential and commercial, and that one aspect for the residential is the blower door test. I'm wondering if you can tell us how a person would get an energy audit, and tell us a little bit about the blower door test.
Yeah, so the blower door test is pretty interesting. We do not do the energy audits in-house. I contract out with another entity. They happen to be within the last few years and probably going forward, Center for Energy and Environment out of the metro area. So they'd come down and do the energy audits. And the blower door test is pretty interesting. They open up your door. They put this contraption over your door opening, right, with a blower, and it's essentially trying to locate. It's pressurizing your house, and what the outcome is of that is possibly saying you have a 2-foot opening, square foot opening in your house if it's nothing's insulated. You have single pane windows, things like that. So it's showing on how much air loss is being lost, or a heat source going out through your house. So that's kind of the gist of a blower door test. But with the home energy audit for residential customers, that's something we pay for. In the past, I was charging homeowners $100, and we'd pay the rest along with direct installs. But to be able to offer or have more funds available for more customers, we don't do direct installs. We're not asking them to do that. And those would be like replacing bulbs to LED and doing some other replacing the weather stripping on a window or a door possibly. But we just pay 100% of the energy audit, and they come in, they do the blower door test, they'll bring the infrared camera, check for insulation walls and attics, see if there is any, see if there's the right depth of insulation in the wall. They'll be able to tell if something's settled in a wall with their infrared camera. If there's access to an attic, they'll peek their head up there and see if there's the right depth of insulation. They also do some combustion tests on the furnace and the water heater. More than likely they have a gas water heater or a gas furnace. They'll do a combustion test to make sure that air quality in the home is good and that it's working properly that way. And then they'll check stripping on doors and windows too, I believe. But what's nice is a customer gets a report with some generic photos of, if they're saying your AC or furnace is extremely old, there might be a generic picture of an AC or furnace there. But there's real pictures of, maybe a corner of a wall.
Holes in the foundation.
Yeah, like
which is what
there's no
experienced.
insulation there. Here's an actual picture, not infrared imaged, but then an infrared image of that area showing the colors so the person can know where that issue is coming from. And it gives some tips in there and whatnot, but I think people that have done it in the past have been satisfied with the audit. But of course, the biggest thing with an energy audit is it's nice to get that information, but it doesn't do any good unless you act on it, right? Yep.
I'm a big fan of energy audits and a blower door test. I've experienced it, and it did help identify cost-effective, sort of low-hanging fruit items that I could do in my home
Right.
to reduce energy loss, and it was instantaneous.
Yeah.
One was just plugging some little holes that I had in my foundation that I didn't know about, and here I was thinking, I'll replace my windows, and really the more cost-effective thing was to close up the fireplace.
Right. And it's interesting. I've gone back and looked at some of those audits and just looked at, I'm actually replacing windows in my home now because they were pretty bad. But every audit that I looked at, there was no recommendation to replace the windows.
Interesting,
And,
yeah.
and the interesting thing is that none of the windows that they went to were single pane windows. They at least had storm windows on the back. So at least to their calculations, right or wrong, to their calculations, it wasn't cost effective to replace the windows.
Yes.
So it was
But
just
that's
interesting.
what an energy audit
Yeah.
tells you, and the person walks you through it.
Right.
It's an opportunity, folks in New Ulm, to both lighten your carbon footprint and save on energy.
Right, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about energy audits for commercial.
We
and
have,
business.
yeah, we have done similar kind of audits for commercial customers. I think now we're gonna try to focus more on pinpointing certain aspects of that business, of their process. Whether it's, maybe they do lots of welding. Maybe it's looking at the welders and seeing if there's something that can be done energy efficiency wise, focusing just on that, because that's the largest portion, largest kind of energy use probably at that facility, right? To focusing on certain, aspects of that. Because going through and doing a whole building audit sometimes isn't really what those customers are looking for. It's something that we could do, but I think focusing on certain aspects of their process probably is.
Customizing it
Yeah.
to their particular,
Right, and that's,
mission or
again, isn't
purpose.
something we do in-house. That goes through a different company that I've worked with in the past that's really good, that have done, steam audits in town, which is another thing that we actually offer and have done in the past, is steam audits, that come and look at all the traps and the system. But, they've done some steam audits in town. They've worked with some other industrial customers. And that's kind of what I'm thinking is probably would be the best for a large commercial to industrial customer.
and if a residential customer or business wanted to get an energy audit, who do they contact?
They could contact me directly. They can contact me. My phone number is 507-233-2110. Either extension 401 or extension 6, I believe,
Yeah,
is also
that's how I get
another
ahold of you.
option. Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Or my email is Derek N, DEREK, N as newborn, at newalmmn.gov. So those, or stop in our office, where our address is 310 First North Street. I usually tell people it's across the side street from New Ulm Furniture, because everybody knows where that is, but now it's the old New Ulm Furniture building. So which is attached to the power plant, is where our
Yeah,
offices are. Yep.
it's actually kind of a cool building. So tell us about the Green Step program and where New Ulm is at in the steps.
Yeah, so the Green Step Cities, it's a voluntarily committed program. So any city that wants to be a part of it can. They just have to do kind of a proclamation to a governing body saying they want to do that. That's kind of step one. There's 5 steps total. But back to, the communities, I think there's 146 communities in the state. It's just a thing in the state of Minnesota. It's not a national thing. It's just, overseen kind of by some nonprofits. And there's some state government agencies that kind of help with it. But before I get too sidetracked, there's out of, I think, 800 and some communities in New Ulm,
Or in the state.
in the state, sorry, thank you. So it's only like 17% of communities in the state have been doing this, but what's interesting is that's over 50% of the population.
Oh,
so there is a lot
okay.
of, obviously there's a lot of metro cities, higher
Metro and
population,
medium and-
but there's a lot of communities, New Ulm size, that do it as well. So
Excuse me.
yeah, there's 5 main categories to the Green Step cities, and within those categories, whether it's land use or buildings and parks and things like that, there's what's called best practices. And I believe there's 27 or 29 best practices. And those get more in detail to, transportation, and of course more into building and different aspects. But within those best practices is where the actions are. And those are the things that you do within those best practices. And there's over 200 actions that a community can do.
So we have many steps
We have
can
many,
take.
yeah. And it's voluntary, so communities can do this at their own pace. And really, it's about sustainability and a healthy community, and of course, reduce the reduction of CO2 emissions. So that's kind of it's all intertwined. There's many, yeah, go ahead.
Can you give us examples of a couple of actions we've taken, a couple of steps, and maybe what are some of the next steps that we could consider?
Sure. So to show you, to explain how broad this program is, some actions that we've done, like on the community side and, on the city side, or excuse me, on the utility side, but also on the city side. But in the utility, we've replaced most of our building lights to LED. So that's an action that can be looked into, captured, as in captured, as in, finding out a rough cost of what it was, savings, monetary savings, payback, that's then submitted to the Green Step Cities coordinator to kind of review and approve or disapprove of that, if it meets that particular action, because each of those actions have, kind of a criteria of what needs to be done. So another thing would be all the street lights in town that are 32 feet or higher are not only converted to LED, but they're also dark sky compliant lights. That's another thing that can be captured and sent and be used with the Green Step Cities. And then there's everything on the other spectrum to, the bike trail. The bike trail, while people may not know it, it can be kind of looped throughout the whole community. That's something that can be tracked.
Which is great for human health and
Right.
reducing vehicle use.
Yep, and then you also have, along with that, you have the safe roads to school. So in the end, this whole process, you move along these steps. There's 5 steps. New Ulm is at step 2 now. We're looking to get to step 3 within the next year or two. the whole goal is when you get to kind of the last step is to look at this information and look to see how much, carbon emissions, let's say, have been reduced. And it will be interesting going back and looking at, say, the safe roads to schools. How many kids are riding their bike and walking, or maybe even carpooling or whatever. And someone could ask, well, how is that reducing CO2 emissions? Well, there could be buses not idling as long because their routes are shorter, or that's
or
kind of the
fewer cars
process.
dropping kids off to school.
Right.
It sounds like there are ancillary benefits to human health and safety with some of these Green Step City programs
Right.
too.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I know that our Energy Awareness Commission has been monitoring and reviewing, and I'm looking forward to our discussion about next steps, so.
Yeah, and like you said, and had asked, along with that, it's, what is the city's next step? Well, it's to keep going.
Yes.
It's picking actions that the city can and wants to do. Not everything, actually a majority of it doesn't have to cost the city something. The literally actions is altering something, looking at something from a different viewpoint. I think that's something that people need to grasp, is that just because the city is involved in this voluntary program, it doesn't mean it's going to cost ratepayers or taxpayers more money. And there's, New Ulm's not the first community to do this. We're the 140th, some community that's done that. So you can go on the website and we can look, whether it's community members that are just interested in it, or myself or the Energy Awareness Commission, we can look to see what other communities are doing it, what they've done, and how they've done it.
And communities that are comparable in size
And
to
comparable in
us.
size, right? Yep.
Great. Well, the last topic here is the New Ulm Chamber of Commerce Hot Topics is hosting you November 3rd, I believe?
3rd, I believe. Yep.
Go
Yep.
ahead, give us the details
Yeah,
on that.
November 3rd, which is a Friday. It's at Turner Hall. I believe it starts at 11:30 till 1. I will be, I guess, the main speaker, along with a few others that are going to talk. And I'm going to discuss some of the things we talked about today, but hopefully a little more in depth, and kind of give some, examples to those commercial and industrial customers about, those custom rebates I mentioned. I'm going to have some actual items that we've actually rebated that are kind of things that might surprise people. Maybe not, but I'm guessing they'll surprise people. But just try to get a general conversation, kind of laid back conversation where people can interrupt me, ask questions, and just try to get feedback from them to help us as a utility to figure out what they want. But the main thing for me is to let those customers know that we're here. We have funds available, there's programs available, and we're here to, work with them. So.
Well, if people are interested and they are members of the chamber, there's a small price for lunch. Go on the New Ulm Chamber website. Non-members are invited, and same deal, cost for lunch. And a ticket can be purchased in advance on the New Ulm Chamber's website. Derek, thanks. This was fun.
Yeah, thank
Looking
you.
forward to hearing you on Hot Topics.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.